Joining us right now, retired U.S. Air Force Brigadier General John Teichert with us now. General Teichert, thank you for being here. Does being an American citizen matter as much today as it has in previous years with previous administrations? Because it seems as though that has not given any leverage to our government to bring any more of these hostages home.
Adrienne, part of the answer to that is the concern that Hamas has not been negotiating in good faith during these last several months, and Israel has been. And part of the reason Hamas has not been negotiating in good faith is that when we, the United States and the Biden-Harris administration, started talking about red lines in Rafah, it provided them, the terrorists, the top cover to walk away from negotiations. And meanwhile, Israel has been undercut in their positions, and they have always been trying to get those hostages home and defend themselves against Hamas. And unfortunately, our administrations have undercut the Israelis' ability to do so.
You know, I saw what the UN Security Council was actually for, even though the UN has been very critical of Israel and the IDF, saying that they were in agreement with a potential ceasefire negotiation term where there would be a ceasefire, that Israel will withdraw completely from Gaza and the hostages would be freed. But that is not something that Israel has been at all interested in because they're concerned about their own security moving forward. They don't want a permanent ceasefire for an area that they know is still filled with tunnels, still filled with Hamas militants, terrorists who seek to destroy Israel. So how do we get from beyond this rock and a hard place?
Adrienne, you're right that Israel is not willing to give up their negotiating position that Gaza must not be ruled by Hamas and Hamas must not remain as a consolidated fighting force. But if you pay attention to what's been going on for the last 2 weeks in Cairo in the negotiations, Hamas has not been a direct part of those because they continue to walk away from any realistic talks about how to end this war and bring the hostages home. And all of those individual stories of those hostages are heartbreaking, no doubt. But the problem is that the more Israel and the Israeli government gives in to the terrorists in these negotiations, the more likely it is that the next cycle of these types of attacks will include more hostage taking by Hamas and others.
What do you say to those? You know, I spoke to a gentleman who is an American now. He has family here. His family, and he came from the Middle East, grateful for the freedoms they have here, but see what Israel is doing as war crimes, as an occupation of Gaza. With your military expertise, what do you say to Americans who agree with him?
Adrienne, I think it goes back to beyond October 7th. It goes back to 2007, when Hamas took control in Gaza. And frankly, Gazans and Palestinians there have been living in squalor ever since. And then on October 7th, Hamas makes this barbaric, horrific attack and then runs back very intentionally as a part of their strategy to hide behind innocent civilian Palestinians. And part of their strategy from the very beginning is to maximize their suffering. And I think it's absolutely horrific to consider the state of individuals within Gaza, but all of it has been precipitated by the evil acts of Hamas, who don't care an ounce about the well-being of Gazans and haven't since 2007.
But when I look at some of the latest news, you know, the Taylor Swift concert canceled in Vienna, I believe, but in Europe somewhere, tied to an ISIS threat. Word now that that ISIS is claiming responsibility for a stabbing in Germany at a festival. And then you have this continued Hezbollah attack from Lebanon into Israel. You're seeing all of these things pop up all around the world with ties to historic terror organizations. What would be your communication to the American public who think that it is xenophobic and it is outlandish to have a Muslim-centered ban or a ban for those from Muslim-majority countries? What would your take be?
Adrienne, my take is that there has been this resurgence in terrorism around the world, primarily those stemming from the Middle East, because of American weakness.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.